producing a lot of people to promote an unscientific system, an unscientific idea, and they are spreading again and again this wrong idea about human health, that they should win the ailments, not only with the herbs available, not only with the small information that they had, which was sometimes correct, sometimes wrong, sometimes just a fantasy, but more than that, they identified and mixed up with their traditional belief of considering that they could win the ailments with magical words. When India was independent in 1947, the average lifespan of this person was less than 40 years. Now it has grown up. It's something around 75 to 80. A lot of people live longer. You know that all over in Europe and in America and UK, Japan, many places, the average lifespan is above 80 and 85. A lot of people live very, very long. 100 years, 102 years, and all people live. For example, when you touch a certain part of your body, you feel relief. And they try to identify and connect it. The magical thinking gives them ideas how to develop it. And it all goes without any reasoning, without any substantiating material, mainly based on their guessing, fantasies, imagination. This all develops. And where all we reach? Hundreds and hundreds of different patterns of medicine. Appeasing different faiths and appeasing different faith-based medicines are the same. So that is not appropriate for a modern government. Let's start now. Maybe in 5 minutes or 2 minutes.
Hi. So medicine has changed a lot in the last 100 years. Never before in human history have we enjoyed a comparable level of health. Never have we lived as long, as this is largely due to the new tools we have developed. Modern diagnostics, double-blinded studies, and scientific evolution to check and prove which stuff works. Thanks to these tools and after countless studies and reviews, we are very weak compared to other animals. For example, if a human and monkey were left alone in a forest, who would survive? Of course, it is monkey. Most of the primates swim, but not humans. We need training. It is not just that for everyday life, we are relying on others for survival. We are not self-sufficient. We can survive and progress only collectively. How did such a weak sapien survive? The answer is science and its invention of modern medicine. We surpassed this weakness by our brain. We discovered medicine to survive. If you're surviving till now, the major attribute should be for modern medicine. If you are watching this video, the gratitude is for science, more specifically in this context, modern medicine. From the moment we are born to how many potential diseases we are vaccinated, how many sicknesses, disorders, and infections are prevented. Here, my question is why people are still babbling for alternative medicines like herbal therapy, Chinese herbs, Ayurveda, and homeopathy. We can hear more from Sanal Edamaruku, and over to him.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Diti. One of the primary questions that follows anybody who would seriously think about alternative therapies would be whether this would be a solution for it. This could just be another claim which cannot be substantiated, but I may feel good. And most of those people who follow the kind of therapies that are there without any scientific evidence or scientific basis, but many people feel comfortable with, are practiced by a lot of people. The kind of therapies that are available are abundant in number. And if you take the kind of the so-called alternative therapies, you can list at least 100 of them. Why? Because from times immemorial, people understood that they have ailments when they realize that there are certain kind of troubles they have physically, and they come out of that after some time. And they tried everything possible. And people got into different ideas how they got out of the ailment. They had no idea that most of the ailments would be fought by our own body and would be fought and defeated, and we would be just coming out like a common cold, which troubles you like anything, like a flu that will make you very sick, but still you come out of it. But when somebody feels that, he has taken some leave or something that he thought comfortable for that moment, Can that be a reason for your curing? The primary reasoning brought people into superstitions. One of the major, many people would not realize that why people got into superstitious ideas or wrong ideas or ideas which cannot be substantiated was a kind of crude reasoning only. That is generally known as the kind of reasoning without evidence, without empirical data, without verifying methods, but just by observation. But most of these observations could be wrong. Sometimes these observations were correct also. For example, we see that sometimes cats eat certain kind of grass when they have stomach trouble. How do they get that idea? It's a kind of long experience and a kind of instinct that they feel it okay. Apparently, humans also tried a lot of different things when they had problems. But most of the time, they just came out of it and tried to give credit to whatever they tried. Like we all know that in ancient times, when the witchcraft practitioner who believed that he could control the natural forces, again in the same format of thought, natural calamities or wind or any kind of dangerous situation that they think dangerous for their normal life, they try to ward it off. Like the animal that would like to chase them, they try to ward off. And when it goes naturally, they would like to give credit of its disappearance on the kind of words that they used, or the cursing that they have used, or the gestures that they have made. Crude reasoning. The crude reasoning was one of the biggest mistakes that followed human being. They tried to reason out everything, but some were correct. They saw that, when there was dark clouds, it rained after that. And they also knew that after a certain time, the rains would go away. They knew that if there is a predator chasing them, if it got attracted to some other thing, it would go away and they would be saved. Can they be lured with something else? The primary reasoning led them to some of the fundamental ideas that helped them and some of the fundamental ideas that misled them. You know that at the beginning of our species, Homo sapiens sapiens, they had one of the primary instincts to kill every other human species existed. They were in a herd. They went and attacked them. They brutally killed all the competitors all around. They tried to kill the animals that were creating a challenge to them. They killed and eliminated all other groups of people all around them. We know that many human species that existed before Homo sapiens sapiens were all eliminated by them. So once they got the dominance of the situation, or in the process of getting dominance in the whole situation, they tried to experience new things, new challenges they found. The ailments were coming, and they did not understand they were viruses, bacteria. Every society tried to understand it in a different way. I would like to come first with one of the old texts that we have, the Ayurveda, which is a pact of a lot of rituals to please the natural forces whom they considered as powerful people. The god of rain, the god of wind, the god of thunder. All these natural forces, they tried to win. The way they thought they could win the animal, they tried to give whatever they thought would be pleasing them. They tried to give meat to them. They sacrificed animals. And they found very interesting ways to kill animals. And they thought that would please the god of rain, that would please the god of wind, that would please the god of thunder, and that would please the god of their whole surroundings. And that was when you see in the Vedas, in the first part of the Vedas, you see a lot of sacrifices to satisfy these natural forces. But coming to the later part of it, when it comes to Atharva Veda, we see the if you go to the Indian tradition, I mean, I would like to go into the traditions of Greece as well as of China also. But let's come first to the major tradition of India. In Atharvaveda, we see a major shift from the previous belief. They start believing, you can see from the hymns there, that all the major ailments were happening because there are some demons or spirits or some other dangerous invisible creatures who are attacking. And people identified they had a certain kind of ailment that would make them sick and cough, and eventually they succumb to it over the years, which we apparently could identify as tuberculosis. They found a special demon who would create or make tuberculosis. And to appease these gods, they found rituals. That was the first way of kind of addressing an ailment. First stage, we have seen how to control by their own effort to control the natural phenomenon around them. I mean, which was the whole phenomena was white, and it was mainly trying to win over the rain, win over the wind, win over the weather, win over, ways to get their intoxicating material, which they call sura, or there are many intoxicating materials that are discussed in the Vedas. And they're trying to win all this through their sacrifices. And later stage, it comes to the ailment. That's where we can perhaps identify the beginning of the modern day medicine. So they try to win these ailments through winning these demons that created the ailments. Instead of trying to satisfy these gods for whatever they wanted, for their agriculture they have already started, or for their food, or for their hunting, whatever they wanted. Here they are trying to win the demons who would create ailment. The kind of thought was the gods would help them to achieve things, and the demons will make them problems. This was probably one of the major kind of thoughts people had in different parts of the world in different times. And from there, one sees a major shift. In the Indian context, if you say, the major shift that one sees is identifying certain herbs that they thought could help them. They found something very useful also. Sometimes when they coughed, they identified certain herbs which would help them reduce the cough. When they had body pain, they identified certain herbs that could reduce the body pain. And when there is a wound which bleeds, they found ways to cover it up. People tried to find solutions to all their major problems of health. And many of them were from the primary experiences that they had. They found when the bone is broken, they studied how to put it back together and tie it with a stick together. And one can see ancient cave paintings of broken legs being repaired by people. They study from experience. And once somebody had an experience, they tried to share it with other people. And the idea spread, and many things go on and on and on. But eventually, from the primary experiences that they had, from which they tried to understand things, there emerged a set of people, like the priests, like the witchcraft practitioner, a new set of people, along with the witchcraft practitioner, who would claim that they would be able to handle the situation because they were in possession of certain things which others would not have. This primary way of handling things evolved into a set of specialized people. Everywhere in the world, you can see these kind of people emerging. In India, in Babylonia, in Assyria, in China. I mean, everywhere you can see this kind of a set of people who would claim that they possess the information to help you from your ailments. And you want to sell this idea that you could do it. Like the priest, the ancient witchcraft practitioner who would believe and tell other people that he has the power to control the gods of weather, of any kind of prosperity, or address you or help you to come out from any kind of crisis. Similarly, the kind of practitioners that emerge, sometimes they were in possession of certain herbs. They had the information about certain herbs, but they tried to claim more than what they could. And they tried to mix up their ideas that they could win the ailments, not only with the herbs available, not only with the small information that they had, which was sometimes correct, sometimes wrong, sometimes just, a fantasy, but more than that, they identified and mixed up with their traditional belief of considering that they could win the ailments with magical words, like one has seen in Ayurveda. You can see the same kind of, handling the ailments with magical words as well as certain herbs together in early Babylonia, in Egypt. In old ancient civilizations, we see this phenomenon working very well, and that is reaching out people. Around this period, almost in many parts of the world, small city-states emerged. You know about the Greek city-states emerged. In India, we had a lot of small kingdoms emerge. And around this period, for example, the Buddhist movement was when this was growing up. They started developing a lot of new ideas in connection with how to handle the ailments. Herbs were collected, information was stored, and that was used systematically because a new system of social organizing was emerging at that time. You can see almost parallelly this goes in different parts of the world. You see the same thing in Egypt, the same pattern happening in Babylonia, in Assyria, in China. Everywhere you see the same pattern. Human wisdom is getting to the next level of understanding, and it tries to absorb things based on something works. Certain things would work against your ailment. And they mixed up two things: the kind of herbs around them, the kind of stuff that they have, and the magical words. A blend of both these things come together. Comes later, another pattern. They try to identify different patterns that are not exactly coming from the magical words and from the herbs, but certain kind of techniques that they develop. Some people started believing that there are certain points in your body that can control everything. So they try to identify certain points. Partially, their experiences came from the kind of senses that they have. Sometimes, for example, when you touch a certain part of your body, you feel relief. And they try to identify and connect it. The magical thinking gives them ideas how to develop it. And it all goes without any reasoning, without any substantiating material, mainly based on their guessing, fantasies, imagination. This all develops. And where all we reach? Hundreds and hundreds of different patterns of medicine all around the world, which many people believed would be working. And for many people, it's really worked. Sometimes it had no capacity to do anything. It has no power to do anything. It has no medical qualities, but still many people felt it worked because most of the ailments that people had would just go by itself. The antibodies would react to the virus attacks and bacteria. And many of the times, it simply goes off. And the credit goes to the medical system. Sometimes the kind of medical system, if you can call them a system, it developed. But with these experiences over the centuries, people develop different ideas, sometimes absurd ideas, which has no basis. Sometimes with our present day knowledge, we know that these were not at all helping people, but still they did a lot of things. For example, many dangerous practices came into being. People consumed, for example, when metals were developed, people consumed fine metals for addressing their ailments, thereby damaging their own kidneys. So many of the medicines, if you take ancient medicines, it has, crushed or fine-tuned metal added to it. From lead to gold to iron, a lot of things. But none of these, fine powders of these metals are cleared by the body. In fact, they were damaging their own kidneys. They didn't have any idea about that. Still, many of these medicines would practice these kind of things. But let's move further. The modern medicine, as we know, was full of superstitions in the past. With the emergence of the new idea of scientific knowledge, critical inquiry, of verifying things, or understanding how ailments are happening and how pain is, how do you feel pain and how do you come out of pain? All these informations are coming up slowly and systematically into our realm of knowledge. And the modern medicine, as we know, is based on the modern scientific knowledge that we have. All the previous informations that human race has experienced from the past were all absorbed into the modern understanding of medicine. Whatever herbs were useful, we tried to find what kind of chemicals are inside. How did it work? We tried to identify the exact chemicals that gave us the result. We tried to produce that. And we avoided other toxic materials in these herbal medicines. So modern medicine was slowly emerging with a lot of mistakes. Many times we did not understand when, for example, when there was plague, not so far off, nobody knew how this plague is happening. They had very strange ideas. Many people believe that it's because there are some special race of people or some group of people living around them. In the whole of Roman Empire, it was believed that when Jews stay at a place, it creates plague. Jews were haunted. All their prejudices, they linked to some kind of ailment. And people tried every kind of possibilities that they have, every kind of ideas that they have, in their effort to find solutions. Sometimes when there were solutions, which happened naturally, they gave credit to whatever they tried. So many of these beliefs still follow us. Many of these beliefs were modified and absorbed into the modern understanding of medicine. Some of them are totally rejected, are put down in the history of human knowledge. Now, at this moment, what we understand by medicine is so simple. In the present day context, what is modern medicine? Any medicine that is evidence-based is considered a medicine. Any other medical claim which cannot be substantiated, which cannot be proved, and which cannot be falsified in a certain situation, that would be considered as a medicine which is practiced by some people, but it's not really a medicine. So the whole idea of continuing with all these traditional medicines that were connected with some kind of social structure or belief or religion or collective group thinking followed us, and many people still practice it. And there were new medicines or new way of understanding. People started with their magical thinking also. Let's take one by one some of these medicines. I would say that I would consider when I say medicine, I would only mean one small thing. The medicine that can be verified, where we know what's the reason, why we do it, and why we practice a certain medicine, and why would we get the result of it. If we do not know it, still if we get results, if many people say, we would make normally a double-blind testing, which means very simple. If you feel that a medicine works, but it can be just your feeling. It can be a naturally, you have this ailment and it has simply gone after some time. By your own body structures, sometimes the pace of certain ailments will be fast and sometimes it's slow. But what exactly could be the reason? And if there is a medicine given to you, and if you have a result, can it be a false information? Can it be a natural solution? Can it be by the medicine? There are many possibilities. So how do you identify whether it was correctly by the medicine it worked? You should have primarily, the first method is you have to see that a medicine is working, and you have to understand why it is working. What's the cause of this ailment? How this is addressing that ailment? Do you have any reason that can explain? Okay, if you know it, or if you do not know it, you make double-blind testing. You make a test with two people who have this ailment with one medicine, and you can give the same. You can give something to another set of people, which are not medicine, but just something which is not a medicine, but it looks like medicine. And both are told that they're getting a medicine. If one person shows result, and if you, for example, if you give a certain number of people the real medicine, and if you give a certain number of people something which is not the medicine, and if people who got something which is not a medicine and got the result, that is not a result because of the medicine. So you can easily identify whether it's we call it a placebo effect. Placebo is, you think that something is a medicine. And because you believe in it, you feel that it's because of the medicine, the so-called coach medicine, that you got cured. So the psychological phenomenon that gives you a kind of a relief because you just believe in it cannot be called a medicine. It can be given to people, for example, for psychological solutions, but not for the ailment. When people understood what are the causes of ailment, earlier we thought it could be because of the demons and spirits and all these bad people, the invisible spirits. Later we thought these could be curses. There were many kind of imagination. People believed that somebody else could influence your ailment by cursing you, doing witchcraft against you, magic against you. Some other people believe that these ailments are all because of your lifestyles. But that there are viruses, that there are bacteria, and there can be other microbes that can cause ailments was not known to people. Now, once we started knowing it, we know if, for example, when we have smallpox killing millions and millions of people all throughout this, centuries, we did not know why it was happening. Once we knew it, it was comparatively easy to find a solution, to find a vaccination. We have successfully ended smallpox from the whole globe by understanding and addressing the whole issue. If you remember, some decades back, when a global campaign for stopping smallpox initiated by World Health Organization was going on, there were strong opposition against that. But it was all defeated. And we now know that smallpox, viruses are kept in 2 or 3 laboratories only for future use if it becomes a necessity. It's wiped off because we knew what was happening. But before that, in Africa, it was believed that the ancestors were killing you in the form of they are working on you. In many parts of India, it was believed that certain kind of goddesses are blessing you by giving you smallpox. It was believed in many parts of Europe that the devils were giving you smallpox. And there were solutions that people made. People believed, for example, when plague was there, they were killed because certain kind of witches were attacking them. And all these people who die, if they're females, they would come back with their spirit and attack you. And they would become spirits, and that would be following you. And they thought that can be stopped only if they put a stone in their mouth. That was the belief in Europe. And if you see all graves, you can see that all the plague victims were buried with a huge stone in their mouth because they thought that they would come out and drink your blood. That was the belief. The idea of vampires was connected to that. So therefore, how plague was happening was not known to people. They thought that the vampires would come and bite you and take your blood and you get plague. Sometimes it's not visible, they thought. And they kept stones in the mouth of the dead persons, thinking that they would not be able to drink blood if the stone is kept in their mouth. All the graves of Middle Ages show these kind of stones in the mouth. So all these beliefs. So now we know what was plague. And now we know how it spread also. But imagine 200 years back or 150 years back, we didn't know it. And millions of people died all around the world. But these kind of ailments, which can be very contagious, which can spread very fast, what was the reason was not known to people. Once we understood what was plague, it's treated effectively. And whenever there is plague, we know how to handle it now. But take out the other kind of ailments like common cold, flu, influenza, which killed millions of people all across the world. Now we know the reason and we try to address it. Influenza, for example, every year when it mutates and come out with the new strains, new vaccines are made. And people, the majority of the people who die with any kind of ailment, you could say that, that's with influenza. So influenza is very, very effectively addressed now. But for all these ailments that we know, how we can cure it, how we can address it, there are solutions in certain systems of medicine which cannot be substantiated. Let's come straightly to that. There are medicines that can be proved that it would work, that's evidence-based, and there are medicines, if you can call them medicines or therapies, I would like to call them, that are administered to millions of people by people who believe that that would work, which has nothing to do with any kind of curing or addressing any ailment. And we call them alternative therapies or supplementary therapies. Some are not very dangerous. There are strange ideas. Let's take one by one. I would say that, if you know the idea of the so-called complementary medicines, what are the complementary medicines that we know? Many of you probably have seen advertisements of Reiki. That's becoming very popular in many parts of the world. Reiki is considered to be a special way to address your ailment. And many people believe that Reiki can solve many kind of problems. Reiki has a special idea. It's coming from an ancient Japanese way of thinking. And the whole idea is your body has certain magnetic fields, and it goes into certain direction, and that can be controlled with interfering with people with their special powers. And how do a Reiki practitioner would, handle your ailment? It's very simple. The patient is lying down, and the practitioner would move the hand of the person from one side to the other without touching the person. And they believe that the magnetic field is straightened by that moment. And people believe it. And your body, currents in your body are managed properly. That's the belief that many people have. And when you believe in that, you believe that your ailment is cured. And this old Japanese technique of laying of hands on different areas of your body, on heads, shoulders, stomach, feet, any part of the body. So they would say that there's a life force energy, and this life force energy is handled by moving the hands. And you know what kind of people are practicing? There are something like 8 million people in this world who practice Reiki. Around 8 million people who officially recognize Reiki as a solution for their ailments. It has nothing to do with reality. It's a fantasy. There is no evidence that this claim is correct. Still, more than 8 million people feel it works with them. Can you stop it? Because if some people feel that it works with them, can we simply stop it, telling that this is absurd, you should not do it? That's the major problem for policymakers in medicine. Try to find out for a solution. Because when people feel that, when it's not dangerous, for example, if you move your hand over the body, and some people feel that they feel comfortable with it, and though we know that it's absurd and it does not work, still when people feel that I feel good and my ailments go, I would like to practice it. Can a system, can a government, can a medical authority stop practicing such things? This is the fundamental policy question, which we will address in the second part of this meeting. There are other things, like one can take it one by one. Many of you would know about acupuncture. Acupuncture is a very, very popular healing system, which is very popular in ancient China. What they believe is that it involves inserting very fine needles into different parts of your body. They call it acupuncture points. And it's believed that these are stimulating nerve centers and muscles, and that will release natural pain relieving chemicals in your body. So this is a belief. And this belief is not substantiated with anything. They believe that there is an energy in your body which is known as Qi. That's what they call. And the Qi is blocked, and that's why you have problem. The Qi is released, it's okay, you get relieved. So you have to put a needle on many parts of your body, on your muscles, and the belief is that the Qi will be released and the energy flow will be perfect. That's how many people believed. But you know that many people who practice acupuncture would vouch that their headaches have vanished, that their back pain has ended. How can that be correct? When we know that there is no energy force that can be addressed with a needle. It's never proved that such energy forces are in human body, which can be controlled by putting needles in the body. But it's still practiced in many parts of the world. If you, for example, NHA would not appreciate such things, but still there are practitioners even in UK for acupuncture, and there are people who practice it. In some countries, this is not allowed, but secretly still people practice it because many people believe it. So is it ethical to allow such a medical system? Or is it correct to allow such a medical system which has no base, but still some people feel that they are cured because they believe in it? And they would like to give credit to, for example, their headache ending or their backache vanishing because of acupuncture. There are many people who would vouch. It's absolutely baseless, unsubstantiated claim, but it's practiced by a lot of people. Well, there are other things. Another popular way of healing is known as aromatherapy. It's comfortable, it's interesting that fine smells are given to you. And for example, if you are in a special room, and you can be in water, and the water can be treated with rose or any other fine flowers, and you get the whole aroma. And this aroma has a power that would cure you. Many people feel comfortable with it. And many people feel that they are cured with that. But this cannot be substantiated scientifically. This cannot be proved. But still many people would feel that, well, I feel good and my ailments have gone. There are many people who would claim that. We would consider these kind of claims as medicines or systems without any evidence. These are not medicines or systems which has no evidence to substantiate it. Well, one can come to another area of medicine, which, criticizing that would be very controversial in many parts of the world, which is known as Ayurveda, for example. Ayurveda is, for example, in the whole Hindu tradition, it's considered part of the belief system, though there is no evidence that it came from Hinduism, but apparently this originally came from the ancient Buddhist monks, which was taken by the Hindu tradition. Hinduism was not existing when this came, but the ancient belief system that existed in many parts of India. Ayurveda medicines include, many things, include herbs, a massage, and a special way of treatment, which is known as panchakarma. These are the three different areas of Ayurveda. Herbal medicines, number one. Number two, different kinds of body massages. And number three, these body massages include herbal oils, which they think has a lot of power. And thirdly, a method which is known as panchakarma. This was one of the ancient medical systems that developed in India. And there were a lot of efforts going on to identify many herbs, like it happened in Greece, like it happened in China. Many herbs were experimented by people. We know that many of these herbs would work properly. And human experiences gave them some solution. For example, if you have cough, to arrest the cough, there are herbs that are possible. But there are more effective ways now. Instead of these herbs, you can take the right chemicals that help you to come out of the cough and avoid the toxins that were there in the herb. But still, one would say that, these were human experiences that helped them to identify these kind of herbs. But there are many herbs that has nothing to do with this ailment or would not do anything. One major example, for example, many people who would practice Ayurveda would believe that if you have hepatitis A, you have a special leaf therapy, a herb therapy. And with that herb therapy, not alone with that, you have to chant some magical words, some mantras also, and that would cure you in a certain days. You know that there is no medicine practically for hepatitis A, that if you don't exert your body much, it would go by itself. But you would give the credit to a certain herbs for that. But there could be a lot of herbs that may be working. There is no prejudice against any kind of herbal medicine, if anybody would claim that. It all should be verified, experimented, and try to understand how and why these herbs would work. That is the scientific way of understanding things. Many herbs, for example, many people know that, for example, turmeric has some antiseptic capacities. Why not? I mean, if that was an antiseptic solution which people used in the past, yes, we know that partially it has that capacity. But we have better antiseptic medicines now than turmeric. And sometimes the possibilities of turmeric is much, much lesser than modern antiseptic medicines. You would not now use turmeric as an antiseptic when you have serious threat of septic attacks. You would use a modern medicine to counter it. But nobody is against the idea that, for example, turmeric has certain capacities to address certain situations. But that's not the solution. That's not the way that modern medicine tries to see the things. We would try to see what exactly was there in the ancient understanding of a herb or a root or whatever it is that helped us. And what was the chemical that helped us? And we try to extract that or artificially make it easily. And understand what are the toxins along with that thing, which would be not good for us. And how can we remove it and use the exact thing that helped us only? That's the way we have to use it. But Ayurveda insists on using all these herbs and leaves as it was mentioned in the ancient texts. Now, coming to one of the major arguments against Ayurveda is that in many treatments, many medicines it has, they use heavy metals. For example, mercury is used in some Ayurvedic medicines, which can be very, very dangerous for you. Because at one time, mercury was considered by many people in the world and many parts of the world as a major cure. For example, all over Europe at that time, there was a very wrong idea at that time when people had syphilis. And they were trying to treat syphilis with applying mercury on that. That was not a cure. But still, that was generally believed and many people practiced it. Similarly, such a belief existed in Indian system of Ayurvedic medicines. Mercury is used or lead is used. For example, in many countries, Ayurveda is not allowed to be practiced now because these are not evidence-based medicines. And there can be many wrong, unacceptable, dangerous things added to these medicines. And these kind of concoctions are not good for human beings. But all the same, if somebody is massaged and if some herbal oils are used, and if you give the credit to the comfort that you may have with the massage to the herbal oils, there is something wrong with that. Because any of the oil that we use can smoothen your skin. But the fundamental belief of Ayurveda that these oils are going into the body and curing you cannot be substantiated because no oil would go into the body because there is a reverse osmosis only on our skin. It can enter at a very primary level only. It cannot go into the main system of the body. The same thing comes to the idea of panchakarma. Panchakarma is the 5 ways of treating or detoxing you. That's an idea that many people have, that our body is full of toxins and you can detoxin yourself by using certain methods. Some people believe that you put your legs in some water and some chemicals and drugs are there and that will detoxin you. This is one belief. In Ayurveda, it's believed that there are 5 ways to get you, detoxified. And one is cleansing your brain. And what you use, you find several special herbs and you burn it and the smoke is given through your nose. And it is believed that it's going to cleanse your head. All toxins from your head is taken. And in fact, what happens is very simple. When smoke is going, your sinusitis, if there is some blockage there, that will be released and you feel that your head is cleared. But the belief is that it's going to the brain. That's how it is explained there. The smoke goes to the brain and cleanses the brain. That's the idea. There is no way that our smoke straight away going to the brain. It can enter the bloodstream. And through the bloodstream, it will go anywhere, but also to your brain. But it's not going to go and cleanse your brain. So that's the fundamental idea of this smoking things. And another way of cleansing your body in this panchakarma is you sit in oil or oil is poured on your body and all the medicines in the herbal medicines in the oil is absorbed in your body. So that will cleanse your body. So as I told earlier, it won't go inside. There is another way of cleansing your stomach. You know that there is a cleansing of stomach possible with enema. You can pump in things and release, your stomach. But in Ayurveda, they put a kind of purified, butter and a lot of elements which are laxative practically, and it's applied through your rectum down. It's believed that it goes up and cleanses your stomach. Well, they would still feel that it's cleansing because, for example, if in your lower part of your large intestine, if there is any kind of blockage of your excretia, it would get released if the passage is little more lubricant. More than that, there's no impact. But you feel, yes, your stomach is cleared. So that's something like just using like anything to make little more lubricative, and more is not there achieved. But the belief is that it goes inside. All these herbs put down there goes inside and cleanse your body. So the whole idea is based on wrong anatomical understanding. So still many people practice it all over the world, where people believe in Ayurveda would practice all these kind of things. Not just for comfort, not just for a feel-good atmosphere, but as serious medicines. So, I mean, can one consider Ayurveda as an evidence-based medicine? I would say that Ayurveda should be considered as a supplementary medicine, or it could be considered as an alternative medicine, where if heavy metals are not used and if you're using some herbs only, you feel good. And if that's okay for you, there is no problem. But don't expect that it's going to cure you with anything. And if there is anything, if any herbal medicine that was helping you, that can be studied. The whole problem with Ayurveda is, I mean, all this ancient knowledge had no modern research going on earlier. Now there are Ayurvedic research centers recently, but kind of big claims that are coming with the absolutely baseless beliefs connected with that can be simply and primarily rejected. For example, one of the major solutions that is offered with Ayurveda is a mixture of 5 things coming from a cow, which is known as Panchagavya, means the 5 units of things: milk, then yogurt, and then cow dung, and cow's urine, and all these things together. I mean, and the purified butter from the cow's milk, everything mixed together, and if it's made a bowl and you eat down, and that could solve many of the ailments. This is officially sold in many of the Ayurvedic medicine shops. There are many of the Ayurvedic medicines are attributed to Patanjali. There is a big series of shops in India from one group, I mean, made by a yoga expert. And this group is selling in their shops now bottled cow's urine as a medicine. It's sold officially it's sold in different medical shops of this alternative medicine group. So these kind of things are still justified and argued for by people who connect their belief with some kind of faith. The problem is most of these alternative medicines are connected with faith. You criticize it, you try to explain it, you try to apply reason on that. It will be immediately challenged by a set of people because it's part of faith. Let's come to another thing which is very popular and which can provoke a lot of people: homeopathy. Many people consider that homeopathy is a very safe medicine in quotation. People like Bernard Shaw believe that homeopathy would work. This is coming from a special kind of a belief that you take a certain kind of, you dilute and the potency is increased, and that would cure your ailment. So anything, if you find anything that creates an ailment and you try to take it and dilute, and when you reach the absolute diluted position, it would be a very powerful counter medicine to it. That's the whole idea. And if that is correct, it's so simple, but it has been systematically proved that it would not work. And there is no element in that it would work. But there are countries wherein homeopathy is absolutely not accepted to be practiced because it's a baseless claim only for medicines are made. For example, in many European Union countries, you cannot practice homeopathy. Why? Because it's not an evidence-based medicine. And coming to the danger of all these medicines, I will come to that, again, at the second part of it. Homeopathy is officially promoted by certain governments. I mean, with the experience in India, I can tell that there are homeopathic colleges in India. In one of the most progressive states in India, Kerala, there are homeopathic colleges, and they are churning out homeo practitioners every year who would go and defend homeopathy as a medical system because that's a profession. And those people who defend homeopathy can go to any extent, go even like a religious fanatic defending their faith. And they would bring a lot of people who would vouch that homeopathy work with them. I mean, James Randi, normally, used to show in public meetings how baseless is this claim. He would take one whole big packet of homeopathic tablets, which is nothing, just sweet tablets, and he would open it and put the whole thing in his mouth and eat it down, telling that it doesn't work. This or that way, it's just sweet, small tablets. But a lot of people claim that it worked with them. You cannot prove the fundamentals of homeopathy. They don't want to go into that. That's not the point here. All these kind of medicines are primarily based on faith. So there can be, two ways of classifying the modern medicine: faith-based therapies and evidence-based therapies. So all these ailments, these techniques that people are used, like many of the Ayurvedic medicines. Then, for example, the Bowen technique that many people use, that is developed by a person named Bowen, and he would take a very light touch can, make some special effect through your clothing, and these gentle rolling motions, cure you totally. That's one kind of thing. Homeopathy, And then there is another thing, namely hypnotherapy. Many people believe that by hypnosis you can find solutions. Hypnosis is fundamentally, it's a set of suggestions only. You are in a hyper-suggestive situation and you can be suggested things, and you can, for a time being, you can believe when you are in a trance that something is happening to you. So there are two ways of hypnotherapy now existing. One way of handling it is telling you that your ailment is not existing there and repeatedly suggesting you in a deep relaxation situation. And that is, suggested and suggested, and you are into a kind of conditioned situation that you feel that your ailment is over, which is very dangerous because you may still have the ailment. You feel that you don't have it. You may get a temporary relief, but you would still have the ailment, and you would be in a wrong idea that it's solved. The second way of hypnotherapy is based on a strong superstition that you can be regressed back in hypnotherapy. That's one of the major beliefs in hypnotherapy, that many people believe, those who believe in hypnotherapy, is that in hypnosis, you are actually taken back in your life, and you can remember from the past. And how you would be taken back? You are taken back to your, 10 years back, 20 years back, 30 years back, and finally you will reach your childhood, then taken back to your previous birth. And the clue of all your ailments are coming from your previous birth, and that can be identified with this therapy. So they call it regressive therapy. So these kind of things are believed by a lot of people. There are other practitioners, for example, the magical practitioners in India, for example, the kind of astrologers that are very active in this field, the astro solutions are made by some people. What they claim is, you have astrological charts going wrong, that's why you have ailment. And they would try to fix it by rituals and magic. That's one way of astrotherapy. The other way is, they try to again claim that your ailments are because you have done something, and something is following you from the past life, and the roots of your ailment is in your past life. So they find again solutions here by addressing that problem. So these are very strong beliefs for a lot of people, and there are a lot of people who practice these kind of things also and follow these kind of therapies, and are willing to give a lot of money to these practitioners. I have one experience in India some months before I left India in 2012 or late 2011. Along with 60 Minutes Australia, we have gone to a claimant of astrotherapy, and he claimed that he could chant mantras and cure somebody sitting in Sydney who had cancer, and they will be picked up by satellites and dropped down in Sydney and solved the ailments. Those kind of fantastic claims are made by these people, and people not only believe it, are willing to pay money and willing to defend all this kind of faith, and they would link up with their faith and religion. So these kind of things, again, can be classified into two: the dangerous alternative therapies and the less dangerous alternative therapies. So meditation is, for example, some people find that meditation could solve your problems. It can give, a little relief, mindfulness, maybe a tranquility you may attain. If you are very stressed in your life, and if you sit idle, or if you just listen to some music, or if you close your eyes and try to calm you down, that's comfortable. The stillness and the rest or the calmness is nothing against for. But if you make claims that that can cure you, there's a serious problem. And that is also taken as a solution of your ailments by many people. Now, there is another alternative therapy, which is known as reflexology. So the belief is that different points on your feet, hands, face, ears, etc. are linked with other parts of the body, and the nervous system is handled from one part, and then the pressure is made, and that will cure you. For example, if you handle some pressing on your feet, your kidney problems can be over. If you press somewhere on your hand, and then the problem of your heart can be solved. And people believe in it and go to all these practitioners. And of course, Reiki, then don't think that all Western belief system in medicine are connected with the modern medical system. The kind of Western herbal medicine that existed for a long time also can be easily classified in the same pattern. The modern medicine is a collection of a lot of ideas or ancient wisdom, which was tested and verified and understood properly. And when we are using it by cross-verification, testing, and evidences are built up, and it was double-blind testing was made, and that is the process where modern medicine is using to come to this, the use of a medicine. And before any medicine now used, we test it first on animals, then on humans. And then when it is identified that this medicine is useful and it is effective, then and not dangerous, then only it is allowed to be used on human beings properly. And also when we use these medicines, we understand there is no magical medicine anywhere. Every medicine can have some side effects, and you will understand it better and better when you use it. And then you may find some problems. Then you find new solutions. You try to modify it, improve it, and then you phase out many medicines. And it's an ongoing process. That's how the modern medicines have improved. We have not only developed medicines, we have developed new equipments. We have tried to understand our problems, and we have, for example, when there is a kidney problem to somebody, we now know that there are medicines. Now we know that you can have the dialysis made. If you have eye problem, you know that one can use glasses, and you can, maybe change your cornea. There are so many different ways of understanding the ailments and solving the problems. These all are evidence-based, based on scientific knowledge, scientific understanding. But there are a vast section of people who believe in some kind of medical patterns or some kind of therapies that cannot be substantiated, that cannot be proved, that has no evidence, but they would still practice it. Here, a serious question comes: to what extent we can tolerate these kind of absurdities? That's the point where many people would come into the question of the rights of people and the public necessity to end absurdities. There is a question of the right of people to believe and practice whatever they want, to the extent that it is not dangerous to public health. If there is an ailment that can spread, that can be contagious, that can communicate, and somebody refuses to take a medicine and try to go with an alternative medicine and live along with other people, that can be dangerous to public health, and that has to be stopped. There are different kinds of ailments. One set of ailments are based on your body is affected by some viruses, bacteria, or microbes, and external things. And sometimes your body is reacting to it. Antibodies are made and you counter it. Sometimes you need assistance to end up this attack on your body. But there are other ailments for which we do not know exact reasons. For example, there are many cancerogenous things we know, but cancer is triggered on many people, sometimes with reasons that we do not know. It keep on going, and the longer you live, you have more chances to get exposed to cancer. But we know we have developed different ways to address cancer. If you know cancer early, you can stop the spread of the growth of these cells. We have many ways to handle it. But if somebody believes that a kind of medicines that they believe would work, and if they are refusing to take that medicine, well, can the system, can the government, can the authorities stop them using these absurd medicines and force them to do medicines. There's a level of individual freedom. You cannot go into the rights of the individual to refuse any medicine. That's a question of moral right of a person, and the society has a limitation for its possible interference on the life of a person. But the danger is from a different side. Those people who are vulnerable, who are told that these things would work, who would otherwise go for medical care, who would otherwise make use of the medical facilities available, but they were misguided. They were told wrongly. And if they simply refuse medicine because somebody gives them repeatedly wrong ideas and they're entrapped into these wrong ideas, and if they do not use the possibilities of a modern medicine just because of that, there is a serious public question involved. Should a society stop such people who would spread ignorance, spread wrong ideas, or encourage people not to take medicine? Can a society stop that? Can a government stop that? I would say that there should be very strong interference. When we know that if there are people who would advocate people not to take modern medicines, and because of that, if people are not taking the proper medical care and succumb to these ailments, if otherwise if they take medicine, they could overcome that. That's a dangerous situation. So these kind of practitioners should be stopped one way, or serious counter-education, serious explanation, scientific education should go on to address it strongly. The medical illiteracy is one of the strongest problems that encourages, that allows these people to thrive. The kind of pseudo-scientific explanations that they give can easily go into people who do not understand the basic scientific reasons about things. If they see some scientific terminologies, they are happy. So the fundamental necessity to address this danger of false medicines, which is sold as alternative medicines or alternative therapies, is educating the youngsters at school level with scientific medical knowledge. The spread of scientific literacy, the spread of medical literacy is one of the ways to handle this. And all those people who would advocate and educate, or educate is not the correct word, advocate and force practically people to refuse medicines, refuse medical system, and misguide people, and thereby endanger their life, are to be seriously addressed by the system. There should be more and more public education on how medicines work, how ailments are happening. Unless and until people know it, it's difficult. Even now, we know that with Corona, there is a section of people all around the world who believe that there is no Corona. There are people who believe that there was no HIV. There are people who believe that there are no viruses existing. Well, you cannot change the mindset of people. You cannot end people thinking in a different way. But you can educate people. You can tell people. You can continuously keep on educating people. But at times, in my opinion, the system has to interfere to stop spreading absurdities. Thank you very much. Now we'll discuss the questions, and wherein we will have more opportunity to go further.
Thank you, Sanal. If you can hand raise, then I can call you for, Kunyama raised her hand, so you may ask your question. Thank you.
Good evening. I admire the courage of Mr. Sanal to discuss on palliative medications. Palliative medicine in the United States, palliative medicine and hospice, slightly different. Palliative medicine, you will get treatment, you stay in the hospital. In hospice, most of the time, end all the treatments. Usually patients like to spend their few days in their own homes. That's the difference between palliative and hospice services. So both are prevalent in the United States. And I lived through this system for about 46 years. So I am very blessed to work in one of the best #1 medical center in the world, which is City of Houston, Texas Medical Center. I have worked with the different kinds of services, and I have worked with the medical scientists who developed vaccines like hepatitis A and B. Now they developed a vaccine here in Houston by Dr. Hortes and Dr. Botassi. They developed a vaccine for COVID, which is not which is allowed by Food and Drug Administration, but is not used in the United States yet. But it is exported to India, 150 million doses, and then 100 million doses every month. Why? It is cheap. But in the United States, there is Pfizer vaccine, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson has plenty available. So nobody want to use it here. I think nobody want to use it here. So they are giving to India. I don't, but India, the government of India, since is accepted, I don't know if they are going free, which I do not know. Dr. Hortes is very much interested. He says in his CNN meets, he get a regular meets. Few of our Indian doctors get his regular meets, mostly every day, 2-3 doctors, Indian doctors, comes to talk about COVID virus and different ailments, which we must be proud of. They are very dedicated, highly educated doctors. But Dr. Hortes is a Texas-born doctor, but he is also interested in Indian health and Indian population. So I read this, that they are exporting this COVID vaccine. Then I want to say about the Eecp therapy. What is Eecp therapy? This is enhanced external counter pulsation therapy. This is used in a constant, stable angina pectoris, that is heart pain, and people who cannot stand bypass surgeries. Bypass surgeries are very expensive, but this Eecp therapy is not very expensive, which is available in Chennai, India. And here also in Cleveland Clinic, I don't know how many procedures of this kind is done in United States, like Eecp, which is a cheaper therapy. I would go for a Eecp therapy before I consider cardiac bypasses, which is cheaper, nothing to worry. It is an external, it works like a blood pressure cuff. It's a kind of different parts of the thighs, buttocks, upper thighs are wrapped with these big hoses and connected to small motors, and your heart function is monitored, So the little blocks can be opened by this treatment. This is the purpose of this. This is all, as technician will be sit with you, and they will be monitored by cardiologists and their primary care physicians. So I think we may give a try. Here surgeons, all departments, especially surgeons, are ready with their knives. If anybody comes around, they like to do a surgery, because it's very expensive also. But that is their service. And even for women, they will tell in mammogram, sometimes they will say a small dot, or they found a little thing, and then primary physician will refer them to their surgeon, the special women's surgery specialist, and they will tell, yeah, I can do the surgery, I can take it out, but please don't go for that. Always take a second opinion and wait and see. And you may take a biopsy in that way. If you come 2-3 times negative biopsy, you may not have a cancerous causing cells. And also, even though America is this much advanced, many people are still not taking COVID vaccine. I don't understand. This is because of the religious beliefs. But luckily, in our Kerala, I think most of the people are taken the vaccines, and Kerala is the #1 state in medical advancements and as well as in education, I think. I really don't have a question, Mr. Sanal, and I greatly appreciated the time you gave it to me to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Can you speak something about the alternative therapies that are practiced in United States? Of course, the palliative care is a different thing when people are at the last stage. I mean, whatever they want, whether right or wrong, I mean, if that satisfies them, I mean, we know that they are the last phase and they have to do that thing. I know many people, who are, just passing the last phases of their life should be allowed to do whatever they want. But is alternative therapies like homeopathy and this aromatherapy and all these kind of things, are they popular in United States with your experience?
No.
Since you are in medical science.
Zero. We don't take that kind of therapy in here. Maybe Indian community may go after it. In Indian communities, there is this massage oils and things like that. Some, our heritage is Kerala and Indian. They will go for those kind of therapies.
Okay.
Otherwise, medicine is not approved here. It is not accepted in United States. What palliative therapy is, like the certain diseases, you cannot cure it. Like the third stage of cancer, something like that. But they will still stay in the hospital. They will take the treatment and keep them comfortable. Those units are specially selected units. And only very dedicated professionals are working these units. The therapy animals can go there. It's a pleasant, calming, pleasing atmosphere in those units. Those are units are kept locked. They take care of them very well. It's that's the way it works here. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Deepti, we have 2 or 3 people now raising hands.
Next one is Rashi. Rashi, you may ask your question.
Hi, Sanal sir. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Sir, you have spoken about alternative therapies very, very clearly. Thank you for that. As all alternative therapies are not evidence-based, I understood they are nothing more than placebo effect. But psychologists and modern medicine have recommended and advised cancer patients to meditate, to listen meditative songs, or to bind to the nature, listen to music, etc., etc. So, is this placebo, or does it really involve treatment and make difference in the individual? And my question is, if it is placebo, how can we say psychology is a part of modern medicine, sir? Thank you.
That's a very important question. I mean, if one is very seriously ill, and if you need to calm you down, I mean, whatever, normally, some people would say that whatever thought you have, whatever belief you have, whatever calms you down, you could practice. I mean, that's nothing against that. But if you refuse any medicine, and if you refuse modern medicine and try to go for a therapy which has no value, that's a different thing. For example, if somebody believes that, he can go with pranic healing when one has cancer, and if that kind of a belief is attributed to a person, there is something dangerous. But if somebody is listening music and trying to calm one's down when one has pain or when one is going through a very stressful time, that's perfectly fine. You can read a book if that calms you down. If you are a believer in any kind of deity or God or something like that, and if that calms you down, if you go with that, nobody would stop you. Somebody wants to hear and see friends and talk to them, and if that calms them down, it's all perfectly fine. That is all normal to calm people down. When you are ill, when you are stressed, you need calming down. For many people, music is fine, or just mindfulness in a way, listening some light music or reading something or hearing an audio book, or many people will be happy with that. Some other people may need something else. That's all permitted. I know one famous case of a very famous Malayalam writer and publisher, Eecp, who was otherwise a very scientific-minded person who had cancer, and when he was in the last stage of cancer, in his biography that's written, somebody came and said that pranic healing would help him out of that. He was in a palliative situation, and so the family decided to go for pranic healing. That could be, that's of no meaning, but well, he is in the last stage of his life, and normally that is permitted in any situation because one knows that if that calms him down, that's fine. But in a stage where you're still under normal medical care, where medical system is working on you, they are trying to help you out. In that situation, if you stop that and go for an alternative therapy instead of the proper medical care, that is dangerous. But if you want to listen to music, or if you want to listen to some kind of audiobook, or if you want to hear some prayer, it's the same. Whatever makes you happy, you can hear that, but that has no impact. The impact is that's just calming you down, just like listening to music, nothing more than that. But that's not placebo effect. Placebo effect is something else. Placebo effect is when you have a certain ailment, you have a wrong feeling of getting cured, and you think that when you are cured, it's because of medicine that is given, which is not medicine, but just saline only, and you feel that that's working with you. That's a psychological impact. For example, you have back pain. It's because of your stress, and you need a medicine. Then only you are calmed down. and you feel that, you have to take a medicine. So there is no medicine required. The only thing that is required is to calm you down. You can be given a glass of colored water in a bottle, shake well and administer on you, and you would feel comfortable. That's for people who believe that they have ailment. And people who believe that they have ailment can feel again that they're cured. That's what this placebo effect is. Or you have a natural cure, like a common cold or flu, and you give the credit to something else which you administer, which has no medicinal power. That is called as the placebo effect. Sometimes you feel you are cured, but you're not actually cured. That all can be attributed to placebo effect. But if you're on a serious treatment, there is no placebo effect working on that. So you have to have modern medical system, trying its best way to address this situation. And that is very important, that you are not succumbing to all this false propaganda and stopping the modern medicine and going into some alternative therapies. Will that clear your issue, Kasi?
Yes, sir, it is clear. Thank you. Clear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sanal, there is a question in YouTube in between.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you, Saptarshi, okay? And what is the evolutionary reason for otherwise educated people believing in pseudoscience? It's asked by John Smith.
Well, one can go for explanations based on human evolution. That's one way of handling it. One can also go on the primate influences that people have, that, what we felt, what would work on, primates, for example. How, for example, chimpanzees would react to an ailment. If you see, are we seeing something similar in our own behavior? You can go into that. That's one way of seeing it. The other way of seeing it, I would say that of course, there could be evolutionary influences in the whole process, but one serious problem is the system of medicine which is being practiced by a set of people is propagated regularly, and you are conditioned to believe it. And your vulnerability to accept things, a section of people naturally go for accepting things without questioning. They would naturally go for all these kind of magical solutions. A certain percentage of people, something like 10 to 15% of people anywhere are vulnerable to magical solutions. These magical solutions, whether it has an evolutionary influence, whether it is coming from our past as part of the evolutionary growth of our mind, is something somebody has to seriously go into. I do not have much evidence about that.
Thank you, Sanal. Saptarshi, you may ask your question.
So this, like in India, we see that we have already, institutionalized this alternative. Even we should not even call it alternative therapy. We have institutionalized pseudoscience by starting the Ministry of Ayush, and and we cannot blame this government, or previous governments were also, like you said, the colleges, homeopathy college, Ayurvedic colleges are run by government directly. And it has been being done for now decades. This is being done. So, and especially when we see Indian society, where a lot of poor people are there. And on one hand, they need medical attention, proper medical attention, modern medical attention. But on the other hand, government is giving a signal that alternative systems are also valid. So is it not sending a mixed message or a false message to the population at large? That I will have another question after this I will ask. So I think the government doing this is something, and I think the medicine people are also not strongly opposing government when they do all this. They are sort of, wishy-washy. They just beat around the bush. They don't openly criticize the way. Even in this meeting, we are criticizing this alternative medicine. Even this much, the doctors, we don't see them coming out openly, because somewhere or the other, they are also connected with government, and they are fear that if they go and against the government, they will be in trouble. So my main problem is, why is government, okay, they don't want to discourage, but why are they encouraging this with Ayush Ministry and funding all these colleges? And, even they are saying that registered medical practitioners, they will be given some bridge course of 1 year or 2 years, and they can then become like doctor and practice proper medicine. I think this is totally a very dangerous situation.
Saptarshi, the fundamental problem with this new kind of government department or for promoting all these alternative therapies or pseudoscience, as you rightly said, as part of the public funding. That's the most dangerous thing involved. For example, if your medical system is practiced, I mean, if it is coming under the Ayush Ministry's list of medical systems like homeopathy, Ayurveda, Unani, all these kind of things, you are funded by public money. This is one of the most dangerous things that can be done in the sphere of public health. In a country like India, the huge population who do not have the primary medical literacy, where people go for witchcraft instead of going to a local doctor, where people go for the magician instead of going to the local medical center, if these kind of medical systems are promoted by government and huge funds are diverted to promotion of these kind of medical therapies that are promoted, that is, promoting blind belief, and that's promoting superstition, and I would say promoting pseudoscience. As you rightly said, there are homeo colleges in India. There are Ayurvedic colleges in India who are producing a lot of people who are practitioners, who are professionally bound to defend it. And for example, the homeo colleges are producing hundreds and hundreds of practitioners every year, churning out like a machine. What they will do if you stop this therapy? A lot of people will be unemployed. You're producing a lot of people to promote an unscientific system, an unscientific idea, and they are spreading again and again this wrong idea about human health. So how can it be stopped? But this has been happening for a long time in India. Medical colleges were existing since, from the beginning of India. And homeo colleges were established in 1960s. And now we have a ministry in the government which would look after and fund all these pseudosciences. And as you rightly said, there are efforts to get the Ayurvedic practitioners and other practitioners to practice modern medicine by giving some weeks training. These are, why do they do it? That's the question that you have been raising. I would say that because many people believe in that, and the government and the political system wants to win those people who believe in these kind of systems and satisfy them and appease them. And it's a very clear appeasement of a section of people who connect these beliefs with sometimes with faith. Ayurveda is connected with a kind of faith. Unani is connected with a kind of faith. Siddha is connected with, again, faith. Homeopathy, for many people, it's almost like a new faith system. So it's appeasing certain faith groups. These are faith-based medicines and not evidence-based medicines. Appeasing different faiths and appeasing different faith-based medicines are the same. So that is not appropriate for a modern government. But unfortunately, such things happen not only in India, but many other countries also. In Brazil, in Mexico, in many other countries, the local medical systems, what they call as medical systems, are promoted. In China, the traditional Chinese medicine was promoted and encouraged to a great extent when there was not enough medical care available to people. That's one way of seeing it. Jonathan Kwak has written a book about the kind of faith healing in different parts of Germany. There is a theory in many parts of Germany in the medical system. Some people are advocating this idea that faith healing or faith-based medicines should be promoted. People feel comfortable and less people would come for medical claims in the insurance. Such ideas are promoted by certain people. So this kind of approaches to modern medicine is anti-people, anti-science, and anti-human progress. So that has to be discouraged, that has to be stopped, and there should be public education going on, public opinion building up going on to stop this. What could be the next question?
Yeah, so my next question, see, I would like to share one of my experience I had recently with my maid servant. So some days back, she said she is not feeling well, and she went to some, this Bengali doctor. If you have known in Delhi, there are some Bengali doctors. They call them Bengali. Basically, they are the quacks. And that quack told her that she has got jaundice. The quack told her. And to get rid of the jaundice, she went to some faith healer. The jhad fuk is done. So when I came to know, I blasted her. I said, what are you doing? This is all bullshit. And later on, she went to a proper doctor. But what she told me also made sense, that if she leaves work and goes to she cannot afford a private practitioner because of fees of 500, 600 rupees she cannot afford. And then there are tests which are very costly. And if she goes to a government hospital, which is like 5 kilometers away, she loses her whole day's wage, which is around again 1,000 rupees. So what I think is, because our modern medicine is so costly in India, people unwillingly also gravitate towards this alternative, because for a poor person, it is the cost of, they don't understand what is, because government is also promoting and private people are also propagating this alternative medicine, and they just do a cost benefit, I won't say cost benefit analysis, they do a cost analysis, and they see, okay, it is this homeopathic doctor is taking only 50 rupees and giving me a medicine for 20 rupees. They would go towards it, and there is a huge cost actually. On the long run, we should do a costing also. How much cost people are losing because of this, how much energy, time, money they are losing, and they have long-term medical implication also, because later on it was found from that my maid servant realized that she does not have jaundice. It was just some anemic, she had anemia, and it was a small thing. But if you see, for her to leave work and go for 5 kilometers away, or to go to a big doctor, was a very big issue. So I think that is one of the reasons. If we have government clinics every 2-3 kilometers, within 2-3 kilometers where doctors are present, maybe a lot of people will anyway not go to all these faith healers.
Yeah, I would say that your observation is correct, that the lack of medical facilities is one of the reasons that people are forced into these kind of pseudosciences. You know, I still remember that when I was in Delhi, there was one television program where I was attending. There was a report about a training center for magic curing, mantra healing. And this training center was encouraged by the local district authorities indirectly, by one of the politicians going and inaugurating it. And there people were trained to practice magic curing or mantra healing. And a lot of people were encouraged to go there. And now some 60-70 people are going through each course, which are 3 months. And why would people go for such a course? Because it's successful, number one. You don't need any education or training. You need to study some magic, and you become an oja, a magician who can cure the ailments. And as you rightly said, the Bengali Babas, as they are called, who are advertising in newspapers. And people go there and they find solutions. They would look at you and say that you have some problems, and what's the ailment that is said, and they will ask you to do certain rituals. Most of the time, these are rituals to be practiced, or they give a special threads to be tied on your hand or your shoulder, because that will protect you from the ailment. People believe such things. Or they would recommend you to some other practitioner who would be another quack. These are quacks. I would say that practitioners of all these medicines that cannot be substantiated with evidence can simply be called quacks. And quacks are everywhere. And quackery is practiced, quackery is encouraged, because we don't have sufficient medical facilities available. That's one of the reasons, because normally people should have access to medical facilities. When they are in a serious illness, when they have a problem, there should be free medical care available to people in any good society. When that's not available, the system would normally try to get you into different solutions that will satisfy you, and there'll be less burden on the state. So the solution should be two-bound. One is public education. Education alone would not solve the problem. We have to make medical facilities available locally at an affordable way. When it is not affordable, as you rightly say, then people go to a homeopath because it's cheaper. And sometimes people go with much expensive magical cure sessions because they think that has a lot of power. The magical curing is sometimes much more expensive. Though, it has no impact, they believe that magic is actually working. So medical literacy is one thing. Making, medical centers available to people, for anybody, who cannot even normally afford it, it should be available to people free of cost, and state should find a way to make local public health centers available to people. And also, quackery has to be discouraged totally. And it will work only when you have medical facility available. You stop quackery, and if there are no medical facility available, people go secretly to quackery. So it's a three-way fight that we need. Number one, public education and medical literacy aggressively taken forward. Number two, stopping this quackery. And number three, making medical centers medical facility available in an affordable way to people at every single place where they live. And it should be the responsibility, it should be the duty of any governing system to take care of the health of people. And these are the three ways which are to be articulated simultaneously to address this problem. Thank you, Saptarshi.
But another thing, like medical education is so costly in India, means the number of seats in government colleges are very limited. Private colleges for doing MBBS, I think it is like 1 crore rupees you have to pay to, for 5 years. And people who do MBBS from outside, they are not able to get in. They have to go through a very rigorous test. So it is a very difficult situation. There will be no, even if they make the infrastructure, maybe this government will open up clinics, but where will the doctors come? There will never be so many doctors to, give this service to the poor people. Because if somebody does education for 1 crore, he will only want to stay in big metros only, where he can do lucrative practice.
Yeah, I think one of the ways to handle it is, for example, in the primary health centers, you can have primary practitioners who may not have the whole medical education, but who has the primary education, maybe a 1-year course, a primary course. And if they can be given a limited task only to handle situation. If they cannot address it, once in a week, a doctor can reach the medical center, even in rural areas. And for small ailments, or things that can be solved basically, and there can be a person who have a diploma to practice the basic things. A pharmacist, for example, can handle certain things. And if that cannot be handled, such a person, if there's a serious ailment, which has to be handled only by a doctor, once in a week, if a person visits a clinic, that itself would be very, very, very different for many people. And if things are not solvable at the local level, there should be a facility that they are taken to the district hospital somewhere. So these are the ways to handle things. Not that, everywhere there should be a fully equipped doctor at a local level, but some kind of primary medicine available to people. Number two, what I was mentioning by medical literacy is not bringing out more doctors, which is also very important. But in a country like India, where more and more people want to go for some courses and the facilities available are limited, of course, there is difficulty in getting into medical colleges. But what I was addressing was a different thing. Medical literacy for people, that people know how medicines work, how ailments are affecting people, what are the roots, what are the causes for that, how things are working. The primary medical, our human anatomy, how things are working. So the basic medical literacy should be part of the education that children have. And it should be articulated through the public media like television and other, public campaigns possible. Medical literacy at one side, and more medical centers where, at least pharmacists are trained to look after the medical centers. And once in a week, at least, a doctor visiting these places would make a primary solution. This all needs articulated mindset and a determination to address the situation. One has to take the public health as a very, very serious issue. Then only quackery can end and people can get at least the primary health available to them.
Thank you, Saptarshi, and thank you, Sanal. And I have one question from YouTube from Nishant Salahuddin. Sanal sir says it's okay to do Reiki on patients with terminal illness. If that is okay, basically what he's saying, if that is okay, how to make sure that the possibility of it being presented as legitimate treatment? What is the possibility of, how to tackle that kind of?
Well, I didn't say that practicing Reiki is okay for a terminally ill person. I didn't say that. I was telling the example of DC Kidakemori, who was terminally in the last phase and in the palliative stage. Some people claimed that it, I think it was not Reiki, but pranic healing would help. And a person who otherwise was for modern medicine, his family decided to go for that. I said that to be understandable in a situation. One can see it with kindness because they know that there is no solution for him. He's in the last phase of his life. And that is a different thing altogether. If one is in the last phase of his life, if there is no solution, he's going off. And if he believes in something, if he believes in praying, for example, can you stop him praying? Because we know that praying has no impact, except that it gives some peace to the person who believes. And if somebody wants to pray when he's, very seriously ill, can you stop him? I would say that we know that that has no meaning. But if that satisfied that person, if he wants it, nobody can stop him. In that spirit only, I said. I would say that when, faith healers or all these kind of quackery reaching the modern medicine and taking care of people, that has to be stopped. Nobody has the right to come into the realm of medical care. But if a person is in the last phase of his life and no medicines are working, and if somebody says that, well, I would like to do a certain thing that I wish to do. For example, if somebody believes that I need aromatherapy that will help me from cancer, if somebody believes that, can you stop him doing aromatherapy? I would say that there should be some kindness at that situation. But if somebody makes him believe that he has to do aromatherapy to end his cancer and avoid modern treatment, the person who articulates that should be stopped. He should be arrested immediately, I would say, because he's giving a wrong idea and troubling a person practically by giving a wrong idea. If anybody tries to force such a situation or stop modern medical care by spreading a wrong idea, that should be stopped. But what I said is a different thing. When one is in a palliative situation, when one is sure that he is dying, and if he wants to pray, and if he thinks that, that is, what he wants, or if somebody wants to listen loud music, if that is good for him. Suppose somebody wants to meditate, and that's what he wants, he would need at that time. There, one should have kindness to allow him to do whatever he wants. But when you can administer medicine, when that is possible, he should be educated that should be followed. That's a different thing altogether. I would not advocate that any kind of quackery administered on people when there is a possibility that they can recover, or that would be useful for them.
Thank you, Sanal. And Jayashree, you may ask a question.
In rheumatic cases, we are using the oil massage and something in Ayurvedic. That is also increasing the blood circulation and something. What you can say in that?
Yeah. So massaging, for example, it helps people because it's what you get out of massaging is relaxing your muscles. Nothing more than that. But in Ayurveda, it is believed that you are using certain herbal oils, and these oils are going into your body, and that's finding solutions down into your body. That doesn't work like that. No oil that is applied in your body is going into your body and finding a cure for that, because it doesn't go into your body. There's only a reverse osmosis possible on our skin. And massaging, if you use any kind of oil, it has an impact on you by its aroma or its a good feeling or sliding. It has an impact. But no, if you need some soothing of your muscle, probably massaging would help. But if you have arthritic pain, you can relax your muscles. But there is no other major way than stopping having pain for you. And you should have painkillers, because if you have pain, you will stress your muscles again and you will have swelling again. So, there are not much solutions for most of the arthritis problems. For example, if you have a certain kind of gout, for example, that's a different thing. Many people know that. That's because you have uric acid in your blood, and deposits are there, crystals are depositing in your junctions. So there you have another solution. No, massaging would help there. One has to understand why you have that problem. If you understand that you have uric acid in your blood and you have to take medicines to stop the presence of uric acid, that's a solution. So you have to understand why you have this pain and what's the reason for that pain. Just by massaging and putting some oil is a kind of primitive way of handling ailments. But many people feel it okay because it's soothing, it's relaxing for some people. And that's where they feel comfort. The problem is not addressed with that. It's only little relief you feel with all this kind of muscle relaxing.
Thank you, Sanal. Thank you, Jayashree. Do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, we know that homeopathy is not at all effective, apart from its this placebo effect, and also it is they get success in some self-limiting diseases. But there are a lot of successful homeopaths around us. I think they are using this mother tincture as such to the patient. Yes, mother. I don't know whether we have discussed about that. I was a little late to join. I think these these medicines, they call it mother tincture, are outdated medicines, which is previously used by modern medicine practitioners because of severe side effects and all. Have you any data regarding that?
I don't have any data regarding that because if people are using unauthorized medicines to claim that they're using homeopathic medicines, any kind of unauthorized medicines, that's a criminal offense. I know, for example, magicians, magical curers in some areas would use some kind of easy solutions, not only homeopaths. I remember one very famous case, which I've told many times. One of my colleagues in my university, I visited, he was from a very remote area in Eecp district, and I've gone to his place for his sister's marriage when I was a graduation student at that time. His brother was a local medical practitioner, and he had no medical education, but he was very successful locally. There was no medical facility available some 25 kilometers near that place. But anybody has an ailment who would come to him, and he would give some medicine and they charge some money and they feel comfortable. Most of the time, he would give a painkiller, paracetamol, or an aspirin, and people will be comfortable. And how dangerous it is, I've explained to my friend at that time, my colleague at that time, because many times, there is no way to understand what was the problem. Sometimes this can be even dangerous. Similarly, I would say that if there are homeopaths who use any kind of unauthorized medicines, whether phased out medicines or medicines that are already rejected by modern system and new advanced forms of it came, that's to be identified and that's to be stopped. I think there are successful homeopaths, as you rightly said, because many people believe in homeopathy. Also, there are many astrologers who are very successful because many people believe in astrology. Also, there are many witchcraft practitioners very successful because people believe in witchcraft. So one should classify homeopathy as a quackery. That's what I would generally suggest. But if anybody, till it is officially declared a quackery, if anybody using some medicine, from the modern medicine without license, without permission, without proper education, that has to be identified and stopped. I don't have any data if anybody uses such, outdated or phased out medicine in the guise of homeopathic medicines. But if one has evidence, one should bring it out. That's the only thing I could say. Thank you.
And Kunyama has one more question, I guess.
Yeah, I'd like to add something. Several times I said City of Houston is the #1 medical center in the United States as well as in the world. But I want you to know Texas has the most uninsured people in the whole United States. Excuse me, that's not a laughing matter, it's a painful factor. What we have here is Harris County hospital system. Counties have their own hospital system, Veterans Hospital and Women's Health Hospitals. They do go there. But medicine is very, very expensive here. If a medical student come out of medical college, their cost is like $150,000 to $200,000. In the second generation of Indian population, Indian girls and young men, they are also medical doctors, including my nephew. They are also facing this kind of financial burdens. This is the way it works here. In City of Houston, there are several universities. 3 of them are medical colleges. One medical college is the chancellor is Indian lady. She's born in North India. Her name is Renu Katur. That medical college is dedicated to low-income people, like here, the Black people, Asians, and Spanish people. By affirmative law, they get admissions there if they are status students. And we too face a lot of problems, just like in India, like a medical cost. Medical cost is unbelievable here in the United States, in Houston too. And then Mr. Sanal was saying, why can't we convert homeopathy doctors to real medical doctors? I'm wondering, these homeopathy classes, are they university classes or are just courses? If they are university courses, why can't we change them to real doctors and go practice in suburbs of India rather than metro areas. Here also, we don't have enough doctors in suburbs. So everything is concentrated in cities, metropolitan areas. Same problem here too. This is what I like to share. Thank you.
I did not advocate that homeopaths should be able to practice modern medicine. I said on the contrary. I said it's not feasible, it's not possible. But if anybody who would like to get education in modern medicine, they should be encouraged. They should be encouraged to go to modern medicine, and they should be able to come out of homeopathy. And there should be some, if there is a quota for ex-homeopaths to go for modern medicine, that should be allowed. On the other side, the problem with homeopaths is they are not only practitioners, but they are promoters of homeopathy, and they are also very actively against modern medical system. There are a set of negative campaigners against and to promote their quackery. They are fighting against modern medical system. So to win them for modern medical system is normally difficult, because the kind of cognitive dissonance that they build by repeatedly defending their way of thinking about medicine finally make them believe so strongly that their system is correct and modern medical system is absolutely wrong, and they reject modern medicines and believe in their magical world. So it's very difficult to break this mindset and take them to the modern medical care. So that's one thing. And the other thing, as you rightly said, the medical expenditure in United States is very, very high. And if you do not have a medical insurance, you are in real soup. So therefore, I would suggest that there should be some way in a country like United States, which has a huge medical facility available, to reach out to people and medical care made available to people like the NHS would do in Britain, or the European Union generally would do about health. There should be something seriously done in United States to address the medical crisis, because it's so expensive. Still, I'm very happy that most of the people are not going to alternative therapies, and still people want modern medical care and they do not get it. Medical care is a birthright of people. It's a natural right, and that should be guaranteed for anybody and everybody universally. And there should be, it should be seen as a right of anybody. To have food is a right of people. To have a shelter is a right of people. To have medical care is a right of people. Health is a natural right. And that should, when there is tax collected, states should have also a responsibility to look after their health. And there should be some practical ways, given the system that they have to find. In India, again, the same kind of problem. Medical facilities are available free of cost in many districts, but it's overcrowded. And the quality of medical facilities it's improving, but still in a very, very primary level. And there are no medical centers in the rural areas. So the kind of medical facilities that are available to people at an affordable rate or at no cost if people are poor should be an important thing that we have to address in any given stage. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope all the questions are out on Zoom. There is one from YouTube. Not so sure whether it is that relevant, but can I read?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. I'm Ashok Matthew. I'm living in Kuwait. Here, 99% have taken 2 doses of COVID vaccine, and now booster dose is going on. What in advanced democratic countries, there are people who do not take vaccine? Why this?
Well, in developed countries, in many places, there are groups of people who do not believe in viruses. That's a faith. It's a faith-based position. They do not believe in viruses. They do not believe in any kind of illness that's happening. This is all some toxic effects, and you have to detox in yourself only. That's the kind of belief that they are spreading. That's why there is a necessity to spread scientific literacy and medical literacy, not only in the developing world, but also in the developed world, where a lot of people are simply succumb to these kind of campaigns. A lot of people still believe in these kind of structures. But the most important thing is, when there is a pandemic, it's the responsibility of the states to ensure that others are not endangered with this strange faith that people have, because they are exposing themselves to those people who are otherwise practicing modern medical system. There should be ways to discourage these kind of things. But where is this delicate line of human freedom and freedom to affect public health? I mean, in many countries, there are ways that, I mean, if you want to enter your bus, you have to show your vaccination. In Germany, it's compulsory. Or if you have to enter a shopping mall, you have to show your vaccination. If you want to enter your flight, you have to show your vaccination. That's one way of handling it. So more and more people getting vaccinated is the only solution that we have. And if Kuwait has reached 99%, I don't know whether the figures are, correct. But if it is, correct, that's really, really appreciable. It's really appreciable. No doubt about that. I mean, in many European countries, there are at least 5 to 10% of the population refuse to take vaccination because they believe that there is no ailment and there is no virus. And that's the kind of people who are believing in astrology, who are believing in angels coming, and who are believing that, there are no vaccines existing because there is no ailment existing. I mean, all these kind of things, they are very vulnerable people. They believe in strange things. Magical thinking is part of the belief system that many people are following. Gods may vanish, but still many people have different new superstitions around stuff because people are still vulnerable. When the number of people who are vulnerable to all these kind of magical thinking goes down, that shows how the society has grown. But I would say that even in developed countries, including United States and UK and European Union, you can find people who do not believe in modern medical system, who do not want vaccines, who do not believe that there is any kind of pandemic existing. But, well, that's the challenge we have to address in the interest of public health. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanal. There is no more questions on Zoom or YouTube. Santosh hand raised. Santosh, please ask your question.
Hi, sir. How are you?
Good.
Can we overcome our death when we are going to a future medication or find out something for overcome our death future? That's only my.
You want me to predict that we overcome death or not, right? How do you expect me to predict that?
Yeah,
I would wish that we reach a situation that we prolong death, that like we have prolonged for a long time now. Earlier, the average lifespan of a person, a century back, was much, much lower. When India was independent in 1947, the average lifespan of a person was less than 40 years. Now it has grown up. It's something around 75 to 80. And a lot of people live longer. You know that all over in Europe and in America and UK, Japan, many places, the average lifespan is above 80 and 85. A lot of people live very, very long, 100 years, 102 years, and all people live because we have modern medical facilities available. People know about healthcare, and there is more and more medical, facilities available, and more and more people are using it. So people are healthier, people are living longer, and we are prolonging death at least to, almost doubled, expanded the life expectancy in the last, 50, 70 years. It can go further. And I would like to believe that we would find a way for a prolonged life, if not an eternal life. That would be great if we can achieve that. But I'm no way in a way to predict whether we would achieve that soon or we would ever achieve it. But that would be a great idea to live eternally. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So can we conclude, Sanal?
Yes, I think so. So.
Okay. And
thank you, Deepti. That's wonderful that we could make all these questions from all these different structures coming. Anything to conclude?
I would like to say a certain thing which was right at a certain time need not be right now. So we need to progress as science progresses. Because of the internet and the World Wide Web, people tend to jump on these kinds of fake ideas fast. Also, hundreds and hundreds of the skeptical claims are hooked to different sciences. Luckily, the scientists in those particular fields are too busy working on their research. They don't bother with what these claims are because of the claims really aren't about those fields. They're just hooked to them. I don't disagree that tribalism is playing a huge role in this collective stupidity, but science will develop. Smart people will rely on modern medicine. Also, be careful of anyone who might attempt to take advantage of you and your pain. Whether it is intentional or not, people may sometimes project themselves onto others, and this may not be to your benefit. Do not forget the fact that chances of being tricked are more probable than chances of having a miracle or superpower. Thank you, Sanal. Also, thank you very much to all the audience for your steady attention throughout this presentation. Join us again at the same time next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much.